Welcome back to Marketing Teardown, where we tear it up and we tear it down. We are your hosts, Andrew and Travis. And today, we're going to talk about a company called Liquid Death. So what's going on with this company, Travis?
So Liquid Death is a sparkling and mountain canned water company started by a brand marketer. They have a very serious culture connection. That's going to be one of the main things that we tear down today. They've got a very authentic vibe to their company. They don't really try to take a CMO's approach of yelling into a boardroom and saying, hey, what are the kids drinking these days? Let's try to make something like that. They have a really unique approach. Essentially all organic and health food brands are marketed the same. They wanted to break out of that. So let's tear it down. Let's see what they're doing.
Cool. So first things first, we pulled our brand graph. This is just Google Trends data over time over the last 5 years. You can see that Liquid Death interest spiked sort of around mid-2019, I believe. And I believe that was their launch when they actually started the company, which would make sense. Interesting to note, growth has been pretty flat since then, which normally we want to see this going up and to the right, of course, being that, the most brand growth has happened recently, but that's not the case. They've been relatively flat since launch, which is something really interesting that, may or may not be related to how they've been able to evolve the brand, but a bit of background, that's sort of the trajectory the brand has been on lately. Quick overview of their digital landscape. Most of their followers are on Facebook and Instagram. They actually launched before actually building a product on Facebook. So we know a little bit about the background of the company, and it makes sense that their audience is on Facebook because that was their first acquisition channel they started, and they actually built a pre-launch list there before they even had a product to sell.
Yep, and then as far as their revenue, employees, and revenue for employees, this is all pulled from Owler. We think these numbers are a little low. They launched actually at the beginning of quarantine, so they're likely growing really, really quick.
Related, how the fuck do I buy this? Well, yeah, like we just said, they launched in Whole Foods in the beginning of quarantine in retail stores. You can buy them online, liquiddeath.com. You can buy them on Amazon as well. And then offline in the retail world, they're in Whole Foods, they're in bars and liquor stores and different convenience stores, grocery stores across the country. And we know that that's a key part of their strategy is expanding into retail, which has been doing pretty well this year since everybody has needed to get food since all the restaurants are closed. So this is a pretty key place where you can actually buy their product. And then aside from that, they've been doing some very creative sort of alternative store locations with concerts, event venues, which is partly how they got their start. They got the idea, and tattoo parlors and sort of other on-brand physical locations where you can buy retail goods. So that said, does this business model work? This is the $100 million question. A couple assumptions about the brand and the product before we get into some of the details here. But right now they're offering on their website 12-pack, which has a shipping weight of an incredible 14.6 pounds. One of the things we know in D2C and e-commerce is that shipping costs are huge and a big part of actually making your business model work and make money. They do have a subscription model where you can subscribe and save for every couple weeks or every month you get some water delivered to your house. And we do know based on the market that the average margin for water is about 30%, roughly, give or take. Obviously depends on the price point and the brand. Their acquisition cost, also a key part of this. Because of their focus on brand, we're suspecting that their acquisition costs are relatively low, but in D2C, as we know, paid advertising is a huge part of that model. And so they're going to have some kind of a benchmark acquisition cost based off of all their advertising that also will eat into their profit margin and basically mean if this works or not as a viable business.
Yeah, and the ROI model is interesting because right now they're going strictly brand focused. So they have a ton of people that really, really love them, that's focused around their core brand, and then this kind of auxiliary people that hate them, which actually strengthens their core audience of the people that love them. So what they're doing is they're building this audience. They're making it super, incredibly hyper-targeted, which for something that is a commodity is an interesting strategy because you're not doing the typical race to the bottom. Okay, we have huge margins. Let's try to get ads as low as possible. They're doing crazy merch ideas, and that's going to get them a ton of awesome PR. It's going to build the internal culture of the brand. And then once they start to hit economies of scale, their customer acquisition costs will drop significantly. I'm sure it's actually pretty high right now. And I bet they're doing a lot of lost leadership just even on their shipping, because as we said, shipping is expensive. It's almost a third of the entire product cost.
Yeah. And we do know, by the way, they did raise something like $11 or $12 million. So it's possible they're completely operating at a loss right now. and just going for acquisition by Coca-Cola, who can instantly, drop the cost of production to basically nothing and instantly drop the cost of shipping to nothing with their distribution network. It's entirely possible that's the case. It's interesting because it means that if they were to get acquired by a much bigger company, even if they're unprofitable, there's a path for that sort of an exit on the business for the current owners. But maybe in the future, it is possible that given the way they built the brand, they can still make money, have a viable business model. But we'll get into more of that later on in our teardown.
I've said this already 4 or 5 times. Solid brand voice. When you hear that, sometimes you think like, oh, it's cool. It's like they'd sell it in Hot Topic. That's not it at all. They have a very close connection to the people they're trying to sell to. So like, welcome to their cult. Fuck is all over their website. A lot of dangerous things that brands would be afraid to do, they do because they know that it'll attract their core audience. Their Facebook community is hilarious. They just have the best ads. Every ad, their mantra is that every ad that you see or every Facebook post that you would see, you would also want to just see it normally. Their whole credo is like, we want to make something that's entertaining that people buy anyways. So if you're going to be alive in the world, you're going to drink water, how do we make this your choice?
Yeah, I mean, just look at how hard they're memeing on their Facebook page right now for Canadian delivery. Like, who does this now that you've opened up delivery into Canada? I mean, this is awesome. This is fantastic, right?
So overall, they're doing great. They have a great brand voice. They have a bright future as far as like hitting that economies of scale. There's an opportunity for an acquisition for sure, I would say, in like the next 2 to 3 years based on how they approach their growth and staying true to that brand voice and not straying from it as they grow as a company, because you can tell it's like a handful of people that are driving this brand voice and they have it really well defined. Obviously what needs work, shipping, cost is insane. If you read any reviews on the website, the negatives are either we got a dented can or this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen of all time, so we can exclude them. And then, hey, this was super expensive for me to ship. It doesn't make sense for me at all, which makes sense why they would want to expand into retail. The purchasing flow kind of sucks too. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and overall, we give this a score of about a 7. I think we've come to consensus on a 7. There's a lot of stuff that needs work, but there's a lot of stuff they're doing really well. Their brand is incredible, hands down, excellent brand. But the real question is, is this a viable business? And so we'll get into that in some of the upcoming Teardown episodes. That's all for our first take at Liquid Death. And if you want to connect with us, I run a marketing company called Optimotive, where we help companies launch and scale new brands, new products, and enter into new markets. So hit me up if you want to talk. And Travis, pluggables that you want to plug?
Yeah, my name is Travis Page. I run head of product at Cinebody. Cinebody helps you create video content with anyone in the world. You can kind of play The Sims with people, direct them, make them do whatever you want to create video content. Super important during COVID because video production is essentially illegal otherwise.
Cool. All right. Well, see you guys in the next episode.